Hello. So wanted to try and make a video about game week 15. Try and get some of my thoughts out about it because it was quite nuts again. Um, and sorry if the video is a bit laggy today. I seem to be having video problems, but I'll do my best. Um, but yeah, just another really crazy game week, and I have so many thoughts about FPL recently. I just wanted to get them all out. Uh, so yeah, I found it fun again. But there was slightly moments of less fun this time, and I wanted to kind of explore it all and just figure it all out because I had a slightly bad taste in my mouth this game week with all the kind of talking specifically about the deadline drama, the server crashes. Um, I think one of the reasons it was a little bit. I was probably the main reason was because I actually got locked out this time. The last game week I managed to get my transfers through. This time I was on the side where I didn't. Well, I didn't think I got my transfers through. I was hitting confirm, it was saying error and all that kind of stuff. It ended up eventually, apparently it did go through, but I didn't captain. I wanted to captain De Bruyne, and I didn't get a chance to captain him. So it was all a bit kind of funny. And I know there's a lot of people out there who had even worse stories than that, where they made a transfer but he ended up on the bench, or they captained people they didn't want to captain and all this kind of stuff. So it all got a bit messy, and I can understand why some people were, that feeling when you're locked out and you got all these other people, they got their transfers and they've done it and they're happy days. It doesn't feel quite as nice. But I'm not sure I should feel that bad about that. But I do understand it though. It's not as nice when you're on that side of things. But I'm reluctant to get too outraged about it all though, because my first feeling about the whole game is that it's free. FPL give us this free game. I don't pay for it, and so I feel like I owe them so much gratitude and thanks for providing this game for me that I get so much enjoyment out of without paying a penny. I don't feel like they owe me that much really, so I feel a bit kind of weird to get all outraged and say, "Oh, your servers crashed and you owe us these." Do they have a duty to have the servers be online all the time and stuff? Maybe not. Maybe a little bit, because there is a kind of relationship between us and FPL. With that, they're the game makers, we're the players, and we've entered this kind of relationship, and they're saying these are the rules, and we kind of trust them, and they say the deadline's 1:30, and it wasn't, and it's like, oh, so that. Can we trust you now? So it's a bit. Maybe there's a little bit. Maybe they could have said something, an apology or some kind of acknowledgement that something went wrong there. Even if it's just to say, they don't have to say sorry, but just say, look, our servers are crap at the moment. We're a bit tight for money, or whatever the reason is. I don't know what the reason is, but some acknowledgement. Because that's one of the things I was going to get onto. Which is. There's this whole thing. There's a distinction between is and ought. There's what ought to happen, and then there's reality of what is happening and what did happen. And the ought side of things, one of the things was should they apologize for what they did? I thought that was an interesting question, because do FPL owe us functioning servers that never crash or something? Do they have a duty? I don't know whether they do. I mean, it'd be nice. This is one of the first things I said, was that one of the solutions of what ought to happen, it'd be nice if they just had servers that worked, that didn't crash. That would be lovely. That would solve this whole headache to a degree. It wouldn't solve the deadline debate and the leaks and stuff, but it wouldn't add this extra bit of stress. So if they could get better servers and they can do that, it'd be great. But I don't know if that's possible. I don't know the technical side of things. I don't know how it's run, how they run the whole thing. So I don't know. Maybe they're working on it. Who knows? But do they owe us an apology? I'm not sure. One of the things they could do is they could literally just write on the website somewhere, if you leave your transfers till the last minute, there is a risk that the site could crash, so do so at your own risk. Something like that. But I've got this image in my head though of I'm trying to get my head around it. I've got my image in this head of a soup kitchen. Now this is going to be a way too overly altruistic metaphor for FPL, because I don't imagine their reason for making this game is purely altruistic. It's an advertising thing and stuff, and it's promoting the Premiership. But it's almost like, imagine a soup kitchen, and there's this orderly queue of homeless people getting their soup, free soup, giving away free soup, you know. And then suddenly a whole group of like 100 homeless people get wind that they're going to run out of soup, and they rush the soup kitchen, and they all cram into the doorway, and they can't get through the doorway, and the doorway breaks and crashes down, crumbles down, and nobody gets their soup. And then all the homeless people start getting angry at the soup kitchen for not making doorways that stretch to fit them all in, or not making big enough doorways for them. And it's like, it's a soup kitchen, and we just crashed their doorways and broke it because we had this big rush to get in there. Is it their responsibility to have doorways that expand when we all go nuts? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm just like, so if they could solve that problem on the server end, great, bigger bandwidth, problem solved. But if they can't, from our point of view, our attitude is like, they're providing this free service to us, and I'm very grateful. And we crashed their servers because we all got the leak and then rushed in together. And it's not our fault. It's just one of those things that happened where we got the leak and it was just a big rush at that moment, and the server wasn't strong enough to hold us. So yeah, so I don't know whether they owe us an apology. There is a sense of like, look, they said it was at 1:30 and that's the deadline, and it wasn't at 1:30. So there's a sense of like, well, they lied then. Don't say it's going to be at 1:30 if you can't keep your website open until 1:30. But it's a free service, and it happens. So anyway, so yeah, and I did also think, I wondered whether there was a solution that we could do on our end, which is that obviously this is probably never going to happen, but if we could form an orderly queue, like when there's fires and people say don't panic, go out slowly and orderly, because if you all rush to the fire exits, you end up cramming the doors, and then that's how people die in crowd crushes and things like this. So if there was a way that we as FPL managers could somehow orchestrate a more orderly queue, we might actually be able to get through their bandwidth and get all of our transfers through. I don't know how we could do this. The only idea I have is that maybe content creators could mask what they're going to do so that people don't all just copy them. Like, as soon as they do something, they all copy them, and then we get this massive flood of 20,000 people all doing the same thing at the same time. But I think Let's Talk Andy the other day, he hadn't even made his transfer and the thing crashed before he had even decided what he was going to do. So I think it would probably crash anyway. I don't know. Just thoughts that I'm going to keep thinking, because I don't think anybody's going to watch these videos, and I'm just going to keep getting my thoughts out anyway. And then another thought I had was the question, is it cheating? That's because originally I didn't even think about this. I didn't even think that it could be cheating, or that I didn't have an ounce of guilt about it. It was like somebody was leaking this information. I'm going to wait. I'm going to get it. I'm going to do my transfers. Of course I am. And then somebody mentioned that it's kind of, is it possibly cheating? And I thought, oh, maybe it is. I don't know, because technically it's not really proper. The team sheets are supposed to be released an hour before the game starts, and that's how it should be. And us participating in this, it's almost like we're encouraging this behavior, this wrongful behavior of people undermining trust in a club and taking the information and releasing it, and then we get it, and there's a market for it, and we're providing that market for it, and then we're kind of encouraging that behavior a little bit. But I still don't feel like I still don't feel guilty about it, because firstly, it's not mainly us; it's the betting community that actually has money riding on this. That's where I'd imagine most of the incentive comes from. So we don't have any money riding on it, and also it's kind of, well, firstly, I'm not asking people to do this. Somebody else is leaking it, and then I'm just like, well, there it is. It's in public knowledge, so I may as well use that information. There it is. I'm not the one asking somebody to do this. And it's almost kind of an inevitability about it. Like a lot of our systems nowadays have just they're so leaky, that like literally leaky. There's holes everywhere. Information gets out, and it's a bit unreasonable to think that it wouldn't. So it's almost like almost an expected part of things. I'm not sure though, but that was just a question that I wondered about. Is it cheating? Would it be better? Maybe we could do something. We could push the deadline back a day before, so we don't get any leaks. It kind of discourages it, but I think there'll still be leaks because of the betting community. That's why they come mainly, I would have thought. But anyway, so they're just early thoughts, and then I wanted to talk about the deadline. So there's this deadline debate of like, so should we move the deadline? Would that help? Should we move it to? So there's a range of options. You either move it to kickoff, or you move it to like anywhere up to about 24 hours before. So you got this like 24-hour period, kickoff to 24 hours before. If you move it to 24 hours before, there are some pros and cons to each of these ideas. So the night before, you're not going to get any leaks. Pretty much, you can do it after the press conferences. There'll be a nice little window to do your transfers. No leaks. There may be some, but much less harder to trust as well. So no leaks. It'd also be the same info for everybody. So that would level the playing field a bit more, because everybody would have that same information. There'd be no real access to the late information, although we still have the press conferences, but it'd be a bit more level. It also may suit international people a bit more because of the time. You'd have a slightly bigger window to make your transfers, so maybe international players might be able to take advantage of that. But the cons are that one of the biggest cons is that Saturday morning is like the most fun time for FPL. That's when you get all the deadline streams. I'd imagine FPL gets most of their traffic. A lot of the casuals probably, like I used to, always do my transfers every Saturday morning. That's the funnest time to do FPL, and so you would cut all of that out, and that's quite a big reason for me that I don't like it. It's also less exciting. You know, the closer you get to deadline, to kickoff, the more chance there are of leaks and team news and last minute decisions, and that's kind of exciting, and it's a challenging part of the game. Makes the game a bit more, well, some would say boring, but some would say less stressful or something. So and it also removes the advantage. This is another con. It removes the advantage for engaged managers, and I kind of feel like engaged managers ought to be rewarded for their extra efforts to some degree. Now, they already are. There's lots of ways that engaged managers can get rewarded for their extra efforts, but with a game that's already quite heavy on the luck side in this game, I think most people say it's like 75% skill, 25% luck. But sometimes, I mean, recently it's been feeling like it's more like 60% skill and 40% luck. Sometimes it feels like it's so unpredictable. And you've got so many great players who have really bad ranks, and it's like, how is that possible? It must be they can't just suddenly be bad managers overnight. I think there's a lot of luck, and I think the more ways that we can make reward engaged managers, not the better, but as I think there's room for more. So engaged managers, so this is one of those things where the engaged managers, if they get that last minute information and stuff, and get these extra little filters, it's extra reward for them, I think. Yeah, something like that. The second option, so night before, I'm not sure would work. The second option is to just move it to like 2, 3, maybe 4 hours before deadline. So the pro of that is that yes, the further you move it forward earlier, the less leaks there are, the harder it is to have leaks. But there would probably still be some leaks. So it's hard, it's not sure how much worth it would be. And also, the less leaks you have, the more people can make their transfers when they want. They can do it Friday night or Saturday morning. International players are all happy about that. But again, the 3-4 hours thing, it cuts off the best time for FPL, which is that morning with all the deadline streams, Saturday morning, all the excitement, and all the traffic, heavy traffic, and all the casuals. So I still don't feel like that would work. So, and then the last option is kickoff. Move the deadline to kickoff. A lot of people are saying kickoff's best. Most other fantasy games seem to be kickoff, and they seem to function fine like that. It's fair for everybody this time, so it levels it up a little bit more. So it's, at the moment, it's only the people who get that last minute leak, the Twitter people in the know who get the last minute leak, they get the advantage. This would mean most casuals get the advantage. So it spreads it a little bit more evenly. There's still some advantage to being more engaged though, because you'd have to be there for that last hour. Now some people might not think that's a good idea to have to be there for that last. You have to have everybody in who's playing the game, wherever you are in the world, has to put aside this hour every game week to be there. Otherwise, you're going to miss out. That's one argument against it, but I don't know. I think it's not that big a deal. I think, I think we already kind of do that already. Try to get there to the last minute for leaks and stuff. This would also, the pro of putting it at kickoff is it cancels all the chance of leaks, because there's no need for leaks in the early kickoff, except it would just mean that there could be leaks in the later kickoffs, the 3 o'clock games, and there's more of those games, so could be leaks in the later games. Other games have kickoff deadline. Yep, said that. And then the two other problems is with a kickoff deadline, captaincy, you might get an advantage by captaining a player in the early kickoff instead of the later kickoff. Somebody had something about that, could change the way captaincy works, but I don't really think that's a problem, because it's going to be the same for everybody. Even if you want to captain somebody in the later kickoff and the early captainers get an advantage, well, it could change the other game week. It seems to be a fair shout for everybody. I don't think that's a big problem. And also another thing, it might affect price changes, because if there's more incentive to wait till the last hour at kickoff, it might affect the price changes. Maybe there won't be as many price changes at the start, because everybody's going to wait till the end, possibly. And some people that might be a good thing. Personally, I don't think it is, because what was I going to say? So so there's this balance to be met. We can't please everybody. There's a balance to be met between how much some people like more chaos and some people like more calm. You could make the game, the more kind of chaotic things that occur in the game. Some people like that. Some people want it nice and sedentary, they want to cut off the rough edges and keep it kind of. But for me, I lean more chaos. I like the chaos. Because the more chaos is, the more skill is needed to navigate it, and the more opportunities for the better managers to get an advantage over the ones that can't navigate it. Although you don't want to add, it depends if it really is skill or if it's just chaos as in unpredictable, and then it's just luck, and then you can't navigate it then. But generally I like a little bit of chaos, a little bit of spice. Engaged managers, I've said this as well, so engaged managers need to be, I think they should be rewarded because of the luck, skill. It's like 60% skill at the moment and 40% luck, and you want to kind of have opportunities for the engaged managers to more opportunities to show that skill, to get an advantage. Anyway, this video is going really badly, but I just my solution, my preference, because I don't really know what's best for everyone, but my preference is to move it about, well, I was going to say move it half an hour earlier, but actually the more I think about it, because half an hour earlier you get the team news and you get time for the site to update, because that's another con about it having a kickoff, is you might have to wait an hour before the game goes live, and so you can follow your points and stuff. So you could do it half an hour earlier, but I actually, the more I think about it, the more I think they should just leave it as it is. Either have the kickoff at about the deadline about an hour or an hour and a half before, because I actually like this filter. So you got your game week, and you got this opportunity, this window to do your transfers between the game weeks, and there are these two filters at each end. It used to be that the first filter is the price changes, and it's this little decision that people have to make. Do you want to chase the prices, or do you want to wait for your info? And it's a little kind of it filters people. What do you want to do? How much risk do you want to take? It's a nice little decision making filter. But usually people wait, and the longer they wait for info, pardon me, the more rewarded they are. And so you just wait until the very, very end to get as much info as you can, then you do transfers. But sorry, burping. But at the end of the window now, we've got this extra filter, which is, if you wait too long, you might get stung by a server crash, and you might not actually get your transfer in at all. And I like that risk that you could get in the last half an hour. Suddenly there's this question, this decision you have to make. You could get some really juicy info if you wait right till the end, but there's a very high risk that the server could crash. And it's great. I actually, the more I think about it, the more I think that's a really great part of the game, because it's like, wow, it feels weird to, I'm not sure I should encourage FPL to make their servers crappy so that we have that risk. And maybe they should just fix the servers, but I don't know, maybe the instinct to have the game nice and sanitized all the time, we've got to be careful what we wish for, because it might actually ruin some of the fun. And that is actually a nice little filter there at the end of so that's the risk. You want to get the leak, it's great info, but the site could crash, and that's the risk you got to take. Yeah, so I'm starting to think maybe it's fine. Maybe they should just leave it as it is. And I'm making this massive whole video about this. It's probably not going to happen that often. It didn't happen for most of this season, and it probably won't happen again. It's just with the Man City games maybe, but yeah, but this is all like what ought to happen. At the end of the day, there's the is of this, which is that it is a part of the game. This is what's happening. It happened the last two game weeks, and it's probably going to happen again next game week. And so there's a question of well, what should we do? Because I kind of feel like, look, this is the game. If you want to be a good FPL manager, you need to navigate whatever obstacle comes. Even if the Queen dies, you need to figure out how to navigate those obstacles to be the best FPL manager. And server crashes are part of the game, and you've got, that's it's just real, whether we want it to be or not. So last game week, the 15, I think what happened is that those that prepared the best, as soon as they got the information, they already knew what they were going to do. They'd done their flowcharts. They already knew what they were going to do, and they did it immediately. And there was a little window of like 2 or 3 minutes where you could get your transfers in, and they were happy and they did it. And I think good for them. I think that's what I should have done. And the reason why I had a bit of a bad taste in my mouth is because I blame myself, because I knew I should have done that and I didn't. I did kind of prepare, but I hesitated when I had the opportunity. I started double thinking myself and started hesitating, and So yeah, and so it was my own fault, and I never got round to captaining KDB, and I would have liked to because that was kind of the justification for doing it, really. Um, so yeah, so I think they got rewarded for that, and so next time, I'm thinking. Well, the problem is with next time is that there might be even less time because maybe next time we're all of us, even more of us, are going to be so prepared, so trigger happy. As soon as we get the information, we're not going to wait an instant. We're going to go straight in, and maybe there'll be even less time. And so now I'm thinking, well, how do we navigate this? Maybe it's better to prepare for the next game week to actually go safe and try and get safe options that avoids the whole thing altogether. So it's either that, do you take the risk and do a last minute change and hope that you get it through, or do you just do safe options and maybe bolster your bench or something in case people aren't playing and things like this. So I'm gonna have to think about that. And one little tip about next game week, if there happens to be anybody listening to this, who probably isn't, but if you get the error code on the app or on the website and it says 502 50 something or other, that means the thing hasn't worked, the transfer hasn't worked. But if you get error code 400, apparently that means it works. Double check that. It was a podcast on I think it was Above Average. Lucy Hynett was the guest, I think, and she mentioned it on Above Average podcast yesterday, something like that. But I think it's something like that. So if you get the error code 400, it actually means the transfer has gone through. Little tip. Anyway, yeah, I think I'll leave it there because that's a lot of talking about an issue that is probably not that important in the grand scheme of things, but just wanted to get my thoughts out. Okay, I'll leave it there. Okay, bye bye.